Jake Morrison stood in the center of the massive crystal chamber and felt very small. The walls stretched up so high that he could not see the ceiling. Around him sat 47 different alien species in a circle that seemed to go on forever. Some looked like giant insects with too many arms. Others were made of what looked like living rock that glowed from inside. A few were just balls of light that hummed and buzzed when they talked. The worst part was the silence. For 3 hours, Jake had listened to species after species tell the Galactic Council why humans were dangerous. The Vorthak said humans moved too fast and asked too many questions. The Crystal people said humans made choices with their hearts instead of their minds. The old energy beings called Eternals said humans changed too much and never stayed the same. Jake knew this day would come. For 300 years since first contact, humans had been the new kids in the galaxy. They learned fast, maybe too fast. They made friends with species that had been enemies for thousands of years. They solved problems that others said could not be solved, and now the galaxy was scared of them. Council Prime Zixathara rose from her chair. She was 12 feet tall with 6 arms and eyes like a fly. Her voice came out as a buzz that the translator turned into words. "The vote is complete," she said. "Humanity is too dangerous to remain in galactic society." Jake felt his heart sink but kept his face calm. He had been Earth's ambassador for 20 years. He had seen this coming when the complaints started getting louder. The other species did not like how humans did things. They did not like that humans asked why instead of just following rules. They did not like that humans made friends so easily with anyone who was nice to them. "The punishment is exile," Zixathara continued. "All humans must stay within 50 light years of their home star. Any human ship that leaves this zone will be destroyed. All trade is ended. All technology sharing is stopped. All diplomatic talks are over." One by one, the alien species voted. Yes, 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 they all said. Only the melodic spheres did not vote at all. They were peaceful beings made of sound and light who never liked to hurt anyone, but even they did not say no to the exile. Jake looked around the chamber one last time. He had spent half his life trying to build bridges between humans and aliens. He had learned 12 different languages. He had eaten foods that tasted like metal and slept in beds made of crystal. He had made real friends among the stars, and now it was all ending because humans were too human. "Do you have anything to say, Ambassador Morrison?" Zixathara asked. Jake stood up straight. He thought about Earth, hanging blue and green in space so far away. He thought about the colonies on Mars and Europa and Titan, where humans were building new homes. He thought about all the children being born who would grow up in a galaxy that did not want them. "Yes," Jake said. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. "You think you are protecting the galaxy from us. You have no idea what you have just unleashed." The words hung in the air like a promise. Some of the aliens shifted nervously. Others buzzed or clicked or hummed in what Jake knew were sounds of anger. But he did not care anymore. They had made their choice. Now humans would make theirs. 2 hours later, Jake sat on the bridge of his ship, the New Horizon. Around him, his small crew worked quietly. They were all humans who had spent years in space, talking to aliens and trying to build peace. Now they were all going home. "Set course for Earth," Jake told his pilot, a young woman named Kelly Brooks who flew like she was born in space. "What do we tell them when we get there?" asked Dr. Maya Singh, the ship's science officer. She had spent 10 years studying alien psychology and knew more about how other species thought than almost any human alive. Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was the Vorthak homeworld where billions of insects followed orders without question. Somewhere else was the crystal planet where living rocks made decisions by adding numbers for 1,000 years. And far away were the ancient Eternals who had not changed their minds about anything in 1,000,000 years. "We tell them the truth," Jake said. "We tell them that the galaxy does not want us because we are different, because we ask questions and make friends and try new things, because we refuse to be what they want us to be." The ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the council station behind. Jake sent a message to Earth that would change everything. He told President Lisa Carter what had happened. He told her about the exile and the threats and the vote. But mostly he told her that humanity was free now to be itself. On Earth, President Carter stood in the Oval Office and read Jake's message 3 times. Around her desk stood the smartest people on the planet. Dr. Alex Turner, who had made faster than light travel possible. General Ryan Hayes, who had never lost a battle. Dr. Maya Singh's reports on alien weaknesses that she had sent ahead. Carter looked at each of them and saw something new in their eyes. It was not fear or sadness. It was something much more dangerous. It was hope. "They want us gone," Carter said quietly. They think we are too dangerous to live among them. They think exile will break us. She walked to the window and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the galaxy was celebrating because the dangerous humans were locked away. They thought 50 light years was a prison big enough to hold humanity forever. They are wrong, Carter said. Start Project Phoenix immediately. If they want to see what dangerous humans can really do, then let's show them. Within an hour, secret messages went out to every human colony and every ship in space. The exile had begun, but so had something else. Humanity had been given the greatest gift possible. They had been set free. Dr. Alex Turner floated in zero gravity above Mars and watched humanity build its first real warship. The Freedom's Edge stretched out below him like a metal mountain, longer than 10 city blocks and bristling with weapons that no alien had ever seen before. Workers in spacesuits crawled over its hull like ants, welding and building and making something new. 5 years had passed since the exile began. 5 years since the galaxy had locked humanity away and thought they were safe. They had no idea what humans could do when they stopped trying to fit in and started being themselves. How long until she's ready? Asked Captain Kelly Brooks, floating beside him. She had been promoted from pilot to fighter squadron leader after showing that humans could fly in ways that made aliens dizzy just watching. 2 more weeks, Alex said. Then we test everything we've learned about how to fight when nobody expects us to win. The ship below them was nothing like the vessels humans had built before. Those ships had been copies of alien designs, trying to fit human technology into patterns that worked for other species. The Freedom's Edge was pure human thinking from the ground up. It moved fast and hit hard and could change direction in ways that broke every rule of space combat the galaxy knew. But the real weapons were not the guns or missiles. The real weapons were the ideas that humans had developed during their exile. Ideas about how to fight when you are outnumbered. Ideas about how to win when everyone thinks you will lose. Ideas about how to turn being different into being deadly. Colonel Ben Martinez ran the training programs on New Texas, a world that humans had turned into the perfect place to learn how to be soldiers. Ben had been a Marine for 30 years and had fought aliens who were bigger and stronger and had better technology. But he had learned something important during the exile. Humans did not need to be bigger or stronger, they just needed to be human. Move as one unit, Ben shouted at his trainees as they ran through a training course designed to copy alien battlefields. Your buddy's life depends on you. Your life depends on your buddy. Nobody fights alone. The soldiers moved like water, flowing around obstacles and supporting each other without needing orders. When one person fell, 2 others were there to help. When one person saw an enemy, everyone knew about it instantly. They fought like a pack of wolves, and wolves always brought down prey much bigger than themselves. The aliens had never seen fighting like this. Most species in the galaxy were individuals who happened to work together. Humans were something different. They were individuals who became something bigger when they fought as a group. Each person made everyone else stronger. Dr. Maya Singh spent her days in a laboratory deep under the surface of Europa, studying everything humans had learned about alien psychology during 300 years of contact. The files filled computers the size of buildings. But Maya was looking for specific things, weaknesses, fears, ways to make the galaxy's protectors too scared to fight. The Vorthak hate surprises, she told her research team. They make plans for everything and follow them exactly. If we can do things they did not plan for, they will freeze up while they try to figure out what to do. The crystal people think with math, said her assistant, Dr. Linda Davis. They calculate the best choice and always pick it. But humans do not always pick the best choice. Sometimes we pick the choice that feels right even when it looks wrong. Maya nodded, and the Eternals think they know everything because they have lived forever. But they have not changed in 1,000,000 years. They cannot understand how humans adapt so fast. The research was more than just knowing the enemy. It was about understanding what made humans special. Other species saw human unpredictability as a weakness. Maya was learning to see it as the strongest weapon in the galaxy. The test came sooner than anyone expected. Captain Kelly Brooks was leading a patrol near the edge of human space when her sensors picked up an alien ship. It was a Vorthak patrol vessel, sleek and fast and armed with weapons that could cut a planet in half. It had crossed into human space by accident while chasing smugglers. Kelly's squadron consisted of 12 human fighters, each one small enough to land in the alien ship's cargo bay. The Vorthak vessel was 1,000 times bigger, and had armor that could stop anything humans had used before the exile. By every rule of space combat, Kelly should have run away or surrendered. Instead, she smiled. Form up on me, Kelly told her pilots. Remember what we learned about fighting things bigger than us. The Vorthak captain saw the human ships approaching and laughed. 12 tiny fighters against a battlecruiser. It would be over in minutes. He sent a message demanding immediate surrender and prepared to capture or destroy the primitive human vessels. What happened next lasted 17 minutes and changed how the galaxy thought about war. The human fighters did not attack in formation. They did not follow any pattern that made sense. They moved like a school of fish, each one going a different direction but somehow working together. When the Vorthak fired their big guns, the humans were not where they expected them to be. When the aliens tried to predict where the fighters would go next, they guessed wrong every time. Kelly led her squadron in closer than any pilot should fly to an enemy ship. The Vorthak weapons were designed to hit targets far away, not tiny fighters dancing around their hull like insects. The human ships used the alien vessel's own size against it, hiding in blind spots and using the ship's structure as cover. Target their sensor arrays, Kelly ordered. Make them blind. 12 fighters hit 12 different targets at exactly the same time. The massive alien ship suddenly could not see what was happening around it. Its computers tried to calculate the best response, but there was no data to calculate with. Now hit their engines, Kelly said. Make them helpless. The Vorthak ship found itself drifting in space, unable to see or move. Its weapons were useless because it could not find targets to shoot at. In 17 minutes, 12 human fighters had defeated a ship designed to destroy fleets. But Kelly did not destroy the alien vessel. Instead, she had her fighters escort it to the edge of human space. When they reached the boundary, she sent a message to the Vorthak captain. Your quarantine zone begins here, Kelly said. Next time, we will not be so nice. The alien ship limped away, carrying news that would terrify the galaxy. Humanity was not broken by exile. They were not hiding in their corner of space feeling sorry for themselves. They were building something new, something dangerous, something that fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Back on Earth, President Carter read the battle report and smiled. Project Phoenix was working. Humanity was learning to be itself, and itself was more frightening than the aliens had ever imagined. How many more ships like the Freedom's Edge can we build? She asked Dr. Turner. As many as you want, Alex replied. We have the designs. We have the materials. And we have something the galaxy does not understand. We have humans who refuse to give up. Carter looked at the star maps showing human space, that tiny bubble in the vast galaxy. Soon it would not be so tiny. Soon the galaxy would learn what happened when you told humans they could not do something. They did it anyway. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Prometheus Dawn and watched 50 human ships prepare to break the galaxy's most important law. Today they would leave the prison that the Galactic Council had built around humanity. Today they would show the universe that walls meant nothing to people who refused to accept limits. 12 years had passed since the exile began. 12 years of building and planning and becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. The quarantine zone that was supposed to contain humanity forever had become a fortress where humans learned to be dangerous. All ships report ready, Admiral, said Commander Jake Sullivan from his position at the tactical station. Jake commanded the Marine forces that would establish humanity's first foothold beyond their cage. His soldiers were trained on the moons of Jupiter and the asteroids of the Belt, places where everything tried to kill you and only the strong survived. Sarah looked at the star chart showing their destination. Phoenix 1 was a red dwarf system that the Council considered worthless. 3 dead planets and an asteroid belt around a dying star. The kind of place where nobody would think to look for trouble. The kind of place where humans could work without being noticed. Begin the jump, Sarah ordered. Space twisted around the fleet as 50 ships entered faster than light travel. But this was not the old alien technology that humanity had used before the exile. This was something new. Something that Dr. Alex Turner had developed during years of forced innovation. It left no trace that alien sensors could detect. It was faster than anything in the galaxy. And it could take human ships places that the Council never expected them to go. The journey took 6 hours. When the fleet dropped back into normal space, they found they were not alone. A small research vessel hung near the asteroid belt, its hull glowing with soft musical tones that identified it as belonging to the melodic spheres. Unknown vessels. Please identify yourselves, came a voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The translation systems turned the beautiful alien music into words that humans could understand. Sarah smiled. The melodic spheres were the only species that had not voted for humanity's exile. They were beings of pure sound and light who believed in peace and knowledge above all else. If they had to meet aliens on humanity's first day of freedom, these were the best ones to find. "This is Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the Human Democratic Fleet," she replied. "We are exploring this system under the authority of the Earth government." There was a long pause filled with complex harmonies that the translator could not convert. Finally, the alien voice returned, warmer now and touched with what sounded like excitement. "Admiral Mitchell, I am Dr. Harmony in Motion, senior researcher of the Melodic Sphere Scientific Council. We have been hoping to speak with humans for many years. May we meet in person?" 2 hours later, Sarah stood in a specially prepared chamber aboard her flagship. The air hummed with frequencies that allowed Dr. Harmony in Motion to maintain physical form. The alien scientist appeared as a swirling pattern of light and sound that hurt to look at directly, but somehow felt friendly and curious. "Your people have been watched, Admiral," the alien said, its voice like music played on instruments made of starlight. "The spheres abstained from the exile vote because we believed the Council was making a terrible mistake. Your species shows potential that the galaxy has not seen in millions of years." Sarah felt a spark of hope. For 12 years, humanity had been alone in the universe. To find even one friend among the stars was worth more than all the weapons they had built. "What are you studying here, Doctor?" Sarah asked. The patterns of light that made up the alien's form shifted into what might have been excitement. "This system contains gravitational anomalies that should not exist. The spacing of the planets, the behavior of the asteroid belt, even the star itself shows signs of artificial modification. Someone built this place, Admiral. Someone with technology that makes our fastest ships look like toys." Engineer Linda Davis had been scanning the system, while the diplomatic meeting continued. Her findings confirmed what the melodic sphere scientist had discovered and revealed something even more amazing. Hidden in the asteroid belt were structures that human sensors could barely detect, ancient machines that had been sleeping for millions of years. "Admiral," Linda reported over the communication system, "you need to see this. We found something that changes everything." The combined human and melodic sphere expedition spent 3 days exploring the ancient ruins. What they found was beyond anything either species had imagined. The builders called themselves the architects, and they had achieved something that the galaxy thought was impossible. They had learned to fold space itself, creating doorways that could instantly connect any 2 points in the universe. Dr. Harmony in Motion studied the alien writing with sensors that could read information stored in quantum fluctuations. "They left a message," the scientist reported. "A warning. They say the galaxy faces a threat that only unity can defeat. They built this network to prepare for something terrible coming from outside our reality." Sarah examined the ancient gateway that the architects had left behind. It was a ring of metal and energy 50 meters across, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when she looked at them directly. According to the alien records, there were hundreds of these gates scattered throughout the galaxy, hidden in places that most species never explored. "Can we make it work?" Sarah asked Linda. The engineer ran her hands over controls that had not been touched for eons. "The power source is still active. The navigation system is intact. All we need to do is input coordinates and step through." The moment of decision came suddenly. Long-range sensors detected a fleet of ships approaching the system at high speed. The computer identified them as Council enforcement vessels led by War Commander Thexval of the Vorthak military. They were coming to destroy the human fleet for breaking the exile. 40 ships, reported Commander Sullivan. Heavy cruisers and battle platforms. "They'll be here in 6 hours." Sarah looked at the ancient gateway and made a choice that would reshape the galaxy. Instead of running or fighting, she decided to do what humans did best. She chose the option that nobody expected. "Activate the gateway network," she ordered. "Send coordinates to every ship in the fleet. It's time to show the galaxy what freedom really means." The ancient machines came alive with power that had been waiting millions of years to be used again. The gateway opened with a sound like reality tearing, revealing a tunnel through space that led to places the Council had never imagined. Human ships began jumping through the portal, appearing instantly at other hidden gateways throughout the galaxy. Within minutes, the entire fleet was scattered across a dozen systems, each one containing an ancient architect facility that had been sleeping in forgotten corners of space. When War Commander Thexval arrived at Phoenix 1, he found only empty space in the research vessel of the melodic spheres. The human fleet had vanished without a trace, leaving no trail for his sensors to follow. But across the galaxy, other things were happening. Human ships were appearing in systems that the Council controlled. Not attacking, not threatening, just there, proving that the quarantine was broken and that humanity could go anywhere they wanted. Sarah stood on the bridge of her flagship in a system 3,000 light-years from Earth and activated the communication array. Her message would be broadcast on every frequency that the galaxy used, reaching every world where intelligent life existed. "This is Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the Human Democratic Fleet," she began. "For 12 years, the Galactic Council has kept humanity locked away because they feared what we might become. Today we show them their fear was justified. The age of council rule is ending. The age of choice has begun." The message spread across the galaxy at the speed of light, carrying with it something that had been missing from galactic civilization for millions of years. It carried hope. Hope that things could change. Hope that the old ways were not the only ways. Hope that freedom was possible for anyone brave enough to reach for it. On 1,000 worlds and 100 different species, beings heard that message and began to dream of something better. The revolution had begun, and it started with humanity refusing to stay in the cage that fear had built around them. The galaxy was burning, but this time the fire was freedom instead of war. 2 years after humanity broke the quarantine, revolution spread from world to world like a disease that the Galactic Council could not cure. The old order that had ruled for millions of years was cracking, and through the cracks came something new and dangerous and beautiful. On the industrial world of Kepler 438b, Tom Bradley stood before 10,000 Vorthak workers and taught them words their language had never contained. Words like choice and individual and freedom. The insect-like aliens had lived in castes for so long that most of them did not even have personal names. They were Worker Unit 7739 or Soldier Caste Prime or Builder Group Alpha. Tom was teaching them to be people instead of numbers. "You are not what they made you," Tom told the crowd through a translator that turned his words into the buzzing clicks that Vorthak understood. "You are what you choose to be." The response was like thunder as 10,000 voices rose in rebellion against millions of years of tradition. For the first time in their species' history, Vorthak workers refused to follow orders. They demanded names. They demanded choices. They demanded the right to decide their own lives instead of having everything decided for them. The revolution was not violent. It did not need to be. The Vorthak military caste had trained for millions of years to fight external enemies, not to suppress their own people who simply stopped obeying. When Worker Unit 7739 declared that his name was Freedom in Motion and that he would choose his own job, the generals had no idea how to respond. Captain Diana Moore commanded the human diplomatic vessel Stardancer as it tried to mediate between warring factions of the Crystalline Collective. The silicon-based beings had always functioned as a single mind spread across billions of bodies, but exposure to human ideas of individuality had caused something unprecedented. Some of the crystal beings had developed independent consciousness and no longer wanted to be part of the collective mind. "We choose to think alone," declared a crystal entity that called itself Individual Prime. Its body glowed with patterns that had never been seen before, colors that represented thoughts that belonged to no one else. "We choose to make our own decisions and live our own lives." The traditional collective was horrified. For millions of years they had shared every thought and every decision. The idea of beings who kept secrets from each other was like a disease that threatened their very existence. They demanded that the rogue individuals return to the collective mind or be destroyed as contamination. Diana found herself trying to prevent the first civil war in crystalline history. "There has to be a way for both groups to exist," she argued. "The collective can remain unified while allowing individuals the freedom to choose separation." But the crisis went deeper than politics. The Crystalline Collective was discovering that consciousness was not something that could be shared like data. Each mind was unique, and uniqueness was something that could not be deleted or absorbed. The very foundation of their society was crumbling as more crystal beings chose to become individuals. General Ryan Hayes led the military response to the Council's attempts to restore order through force. His fleet consisted of ships from a dozen different species, all united by the simple idea that people should be free to choose their own governments. Where the old galaxy had been divided by species and ruled by fear, the new alliance was held together by hope. The war was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Traditional battles followed rules that had been established over millions of years. Fleets met in open space and fought until one side surrendered or was destroyed. But human tactics introduced chaos into every engagement, and chaos was something that orderly alien minds could not understand. Hayes used psychological warfare that targeted the enemy's will to fight, instead of just their ships. He broadcast surrender terms that offered amnesty to any alien who switched sides. He used small strike forces to attack supply lines instead of engaging main fleets. Most importantly, he made sure that every battle was fought for a reason that ordinary people could understand. "We are not fighting to conquer," Hayes explained to his mixed species commanders. "We are fighting to liberate. Every world we free becomes a beacon that shows others what is possible." The turning point came when Dr. Maya Singh made a breakthrough that changed everything. She had spent years studying the immortal Eternals, beings of pure energy who had ruled the galaxy for longer than most species had existed. Her research revealed something that shocked everyone, including the Eternals themselves. "They are dying," Maya announced to the War Council. "Not physically, but intellectually. They have lived so long without change that they have lost the ability to grow or learn or adapt. They are immortal, but they are also stagnant." The solution she proposed was both brilliant and dangerous. Using modified human consciousness transfer technology, she offered the Eternals something they had lost eons ago. She offered them the ability to experience genuine change through temporary fusion with biological minds. The first Eternal to accept the offer was an ancient being called Prime Consciousness Alpha. For a brief moment it shared awareness with Maya herself, experiencing mortality and emotion and the beautiful uncertainty of a life that would not last forever. The effect was immediate and profound. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, an Eternal learned something new. It experienced fear and joy and hope and sadness. It remembered what it felt like to grow and change and become something different than what it had been before. Within days, other Eternals were requesting the same experience. They discovered that consciousness was not about living forever, but about living fully. The immortal beings who had ruled the galaxy through unchanging law suddenly understood why change was necessary and why growth was more important than stability. The final battle was fought not in space but in the ancient council, chambers where the exile of humanity had been decreed. War Commander Thexval led the last loyal forces in a desperate attempt to preserve the old order. His ships surrounded the crystal station where the council had met for 1,000,000 years, determined to destroy it rather than let it fall to the revolution. But the revolution did not come with weapons. It came with ideas. As the battle raged outside, human broadcasters transmitted across all frequencies, sharing concepts of freedom and choice and individual worth with every species in the galaxy. The message was simple but powerful. Every being had the right to choose their own path. Every species had the right to govern itself. Every world had the right to be free. The broadcast reached the crew of Thexval's own flagship. 4th soldiers who had never questioned orders suddenly found themselves asking why they were fighting. Crystal beings in the computer systems began to wonder if they wanted to remain part of the collective mind. Even the ship's eternal advisor started to question whether preserving the old ways was worth the cost. The mutiny was not violent. It was simply a decision by ordinary beings to stop following orders they no longer believed in. When the flagship's crew refused to fire on the council station, other ships in the fleet followed their example. Within hours, the entire loyalist force had dissolved as individuals chose freedom over obedience. War Commander Thexval found himself alone on the bridge of his ship, his orders ignored and his authority meaningless. The revolution had won not through superior firepower, but through a more powerful weapon. It had won through the simple truth that beings who are free to choose will always choose freedom. The ancient council chambers lay in ruins, but something new was being born from the wreckage. Species that had never spoken to each other were forming alliances. Former enemies were discovering common ground. The rigid hierarchy that had defined galactic civilization for millions of years was being replaced by something unprecedented. Was being replaced by democracy. General Hayes stood in the ruins of the chamber where humanity had been exiled and spoke to representatives of 43 different species. "We did not fight this war to replace one empire with another," he said. "We fought it to make sure that every being in the galaxy has the right to choose their own destiny." The Galactic Democratic Alliance was born in that moment, founded on the principle that had started the revolution. The principle that freedom was not something to be granted by rulers, but something that belonged to every conscious being in the universe. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of fear was ending and the age of hope had begun. President Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of Unity Station and watched the galaxy work together for the first time in its history. The massive space station hung in the void between star systems, built not by one species but by dozens working as partners instead of servants. It was beautiful in a way that no single species could have created alone. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council. 5 years since the old Empire of Fear had crumbled and been replaced by something that the galaxy had never seen before. The Galactic Democratic Alliance was messy and loud and chaotic, full of arguments and debates and passionate disagreements. It was also the most hopeful thing that had ever existed among the stars. Jake had come full circle from his days as Earth's ambassador to the old council. Back then, he had begged alien overlords to accept humanity as worthy of their civilization. Now he was the elected president of a government that represented every free world in the galaxy, chosen not because of his species but because of his ideas. "The Vorthak delegation is ready for the morning session," reported his aide, Kelly Brooks, who had risen from fighter pilot to admiral to chief of staff. "They want to discuss the new trade routes through former council space." Jake smiled. The Vorthak had adapted to democracy with surprising enthusiasm once they learned that they could argue about decisions instead of just following orders. Their debates were loud and lasted for days, but they resulted in choices that everyone could live with, instead of commands that everyone had to obey. Dr. Alex Turner had grown old in service to humanity, but his mind was still sharp enough to oversee the most ambitious project in galactic history. Using technology from every member species of the Alliance and the ancient architect gates that humanity had discovered, they were building something that would connect every world in the galaxy. "The transit network is ahead of schedule," Alex reported from his laboratory on Unity Station. "We'll have instant travel between all major systems within 2 years. Travel that used to take months will take minutes." The network was more than just transportation. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when different strengths worked together, instead of competing for dominance. Human engineering provided the structural framework. Crystalline collective consciousness networks handled the communication systems. Melodic sphere. Harmonic resonance maintained the delicate balance of forces. Even reformed Vorthak industrial capacity contributed to the construction. But the transformation had not been easy. Many species struggled with the transition from rigid hierarchy to democratic chaos. Some worlds chose to remain independent rather than join the Alliance. A few extremist groups still dreamed of restoring council rule and launched terrorist attacks against Alliance facilities. The difference was in how these conflicts were resolved. Under the old system, disagreement meant war and war meant conquest. Under the new system, disagreement meant negotiation and compromise and sometimes agreeing to disagree. It was messier, but it was also more honest. Captain Sarah Mitchell, now Admiral of the Alliance fleet, faced the greatest test that the new government had ever confronted. Long-range sensors had detected something approaching from the dark space between galaxies. A vast fleet of ships that followed no design pattern known to any Alliance species. "They're big," reported her sensor officer, a crystalline individual who had chosen the name Data Seeker Prime. "Thousands of ships, some of them larger than our biggest space stations. And they're not responding to any communication attempts." Sarah studied the tactical displays on the bridge of her flagship, Humanity's Gift. The approaching fleet was unlike anything in the historical records. The ships moved in perfect formation without any visible communication between them. Their hulls were made of materials that Alliance sensors could barely detect. Most disturbing of all, they were heading directly for the Galactic Core where the Alliance capital was located. Dr. Maya Singh, now the Alliance's chief xenologist, had been studying the ancient architect records found throughout the galaxy. Her research had uncovered fragments of a warning that previous expeditions had missed. The architects had not just built the gate network for exploration. They had built it as a defense against something terrible. They called it the cleansing, Maya reported to the emergency council session. "A force from outside our reality that views all organic and synthetic life as contamination to be purged." The architects faced this threat before and barely survived. Their warning says it would return when the galaxy showed signs of unity. The irony was bitter. The Alliance had brought peace and cooperation to the galaxy for the first time in millions of years, and that very success had attracted the attention of something that wanted to destroy them all. Admiral Mitchell assembled the response fleet at the edge of Alliance space. What gathered there would have been impossible under the old Council system. Ships from 43 different species taking formation not as separate national forces, but as a unified galactic navy. The fleet was smaller than the approaching enemy, but it carried something that no galactic force had ever possessed. It carried unity, human tactical creativity combined with Vorthak industrial might. Crystalline collective computational power meshed with melodic sphere intuitive harmony. The immortal Eternals brought wisdom earned over millions of years, while young species contributed fresh perspectives that ancient minds had forgotten. All ships report ready. Admiral, reported Commander Jake Sullivan, now her fleet tactical coordinator. We have vessels from every member species and several independent worlds that volunteered to help. Sarah looked out at the largest fleet in galactic history and felt a mixture of pride and fear. They were about to face an enemy that had destroyed civilizations when the galaxy was young, but they were not facing it as separate species fighting for their own survival. They were facing it as one people united by the dream of freedom. The enemy fleet emerged from the dark between stars like a plague of metal locusts. Their ships were sleek and deadly, designed for only one purpose. They came to cleanse the galaxy of life and return it to the perfect emptiness that they believed was the natural state of the universe. All Alliance ships. This is Admiral Mitchell, Sarah broadcast on all frequencies. Today we face an enemy that wants to destroy everything we have built together. They see our unity as corruption and our freedom as chaos. They are wrong on both counts. The enemy fleet moved in perfect synchronization, every ship responding to commands faster than thought. They had no individuals, no dissent, no chaos. They were efficient and deadly and absolutely unified in their purpose to destroy all life. But as the two fleets approached each other, something unprecedented happened. The Alliance ships began to move not in rigid formation, but in patterns that seemed almost organic. Human ships darted and wove between their larger allies. Vorthak industrial vessels provided mobile bases for smaller fighters. Crystalline ships shared sensor data instantly across the entire fleet. The battle that followed was like nothing the galaxy had ever witnessed. The enemy fought with perfect precision and overwhelming firepower. They should have won in the first hour. But the Alliance fleet fought with something more powerful than precision. They fought with creativity and adaptation, and the absolute refusal to give up that humanity had taught them. When human ships were outnumbered, Vorthak vessels appeared to even the odds. When crystalline ships were damaged, melodic spheres provided harmonic healing that repaired hull breaches faster than they could be made. When the ancient Eternals shared their knowledge of space-time manipulation, young species found new ways to use that knowledge that their elders had never imagined. The turning point came when the Alliance fleet stopped, trying to fight like the enemy, expected and started fighting like themselves. Instead of meeting the cleansing force in orderly battle lines, they embraced chaos. Instead of following predictable patterns, they improvised solutions to problems that had never existed before. All ships implement Plan Delta, Sarah ordered, using a tactical doctrine that had been developed by studying how humans fought when they were outnumbered and outgunned. The Alliance fleet scattered into thousands of small groups, each one moving independently, but coordinating with the others through the network that connected all Alliance ships. The enemy found themselves facing not one large target but countless small ones, each group adapting its tactics to local conditions. The battle lasted 3 days and nights. When it was over, the cleansing fleet was broken and scattered, their perfect unity shattered, by contact with beings who thrived on chaos and grew stronger through diversity. Admiral Mitchell stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship and looked out at the debris field that had once been the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. Around her, ships from dozens of species worked together to rescue survivors and repair damage. Admiral, reported Data Seeker Prime, we're receiving surrender requests from the remaining enemy vessels. They're asking to learn about this thing we call freedom. Sarah smiled. Even in victory, the Alliance was growing. Even their enemies could choose to become something better than what they had been before. President Jake Morrison addressed the galaxy from Unity Station,